dream broke, but it's clear now. No handouts, had to get down. Now what they fear now. No money, millionaire, we here now. Got scars, but I wear that crown. Turn pain to a real account. No money, no excuses, no limits.
Welcome to the No Money Millionaire podcast, where we teach how to build wealth from the inside out. I'm Dave Webb, your No Money Millionaire, and every week I sit down with real people who've turned obstacles into opportunity, proving you don't need capital to start, just courage and a plan. My guest today knows exactly what it means to start with nothing and build everything from purpose. Stoy Hall is a CFP, the CEO and founder of Black Mammoth, and the host of the No BS Wealth podcast. He grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, raised by a single mom, and went from financial illiteracy to running a modern family office that helps others define wealth on their own terms. He's built a career on cutting through the noise of traditional financial advice and teaching people that true wealth isn't just about money. It's about freedom, happiness, and impact. Stoy, welcome to the show.
I appreciate you having me on, sir.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. So, before we dive into your journey, I always like to let the guests introduce themselves in their own way. So, how do you describe who you are and what do you do these days?
Yeah. I am just the most transparent, probably selfless person that there is, at a fault sometimes, right? Whether that's for my kids, my wife, or everyone else out there. And that's what really drove me to where I'm at today with Black Mammoth and our podcast, No BS Wealth, is we're really just trying to get people to understand what's out there for them, right? And sometimes that means we take on more risks so that others don't have to, because at the end of the day, we just don't want people to feel like they're alone in this world, right? There's a lot going on. There's always a lot going on. Yeah. But to be able to have someone who can hear you, see you, and be there for you no matter where you're at, that's vitally important, specifically when it comes to money, especially in the United States, but definitely worldwide.
Okay, so you've been open about growing up without a father and being raised by a hardworking single mother. What kind of mindset did that environment build in you early on?
Well, early on, it was like, where the hell's my dad, right? I think that's first and foremost, like, what did I do wrong type situation. But I got really lucky, and my grandfather was the male figure, one of the male figures in my life, so that kind of filled in relatively quickly. But what I learned was a hardworking single mother will provide everything that she possibly can. But when I reflect back on it, what I miss is time, right? Her being there at games, her being there with me, but she couldn't because of the time she needed to make money, right? And so for me early on, money was this root, I guess root of all evil, right? Everyone says that, but like really was this rooted thing of like, I didn't care for it. I didn't want to know about it. I didn't want it to be there because I just wanted more time in general around my mother. And growing up where I did in Omaha, I had a lot of friends who did have money. And it was just like, well, their parents are around. They're at the games. They're able to do that. And it's just at the end of the day, you're like, why not me? Like, why is that?
Yeah, no, I understand. I grew up the first 10 years of my life, my father and my mother were together. We didn't see my father. He was barely around. Seen him sometimes on the weekends, sometimes, but even some weekends he didn't come home. And then finally one day, my mother just told us, your father's not coming home anymore. And it had been so sparse anyways that to me it wasn't some great impact. It was like, okay, I didn't really have a father that did anything with me. So, but I watched my mother, and I sometimes my brother, he was older than me, and he was critical on our mom. And my brother was more structured. He went and had a traditional job and he had structure, and I didn't. So, I give my mother credit. We never lost our phone number. To me, I know what that is, but it's important. And I give my mom a lot of credit because there's a lot of ways a single mother can go. And some people, it didn't work the greatest for them. But in my case, it did. My mother worked hard and she provided, and, we didn't lose the phone. Our lights didn't get shut off. So these are points that stood out to me. So, I related with it when I heard you talking about, your single mother and stuff. So, and somewhere in that story, you go from wanting to be an NFL player or a Navy SEAL to studying finance and business law. What was that change? What changed your course there?
Well, the biggest change was I tore my Achilles. So that'll set you back quite a bit within both of those fields. But I mean, obviously that takes care of the NFL idea. I was also like 2 inches too short and like a tenth or two too slow, right? So there was always that going against me. And then with the Achilles thing with the Navy SEALs part of it. But the flip was I was always involved with, like, I always loved finances and money. Right. When I went to Drake University, got my degree in finance. I minored in business law and insurance, and I was what was my official title? It was Teen Development Officer at the Boys and Girls Club. Oh. Fancy way of saying I was a babysitter for the teenagers. Yeah. But I really learned that we have a money issue in America, and it's not because it's not available for others. To a degree, it isn't, but it was more like they just didn't know what it was. Right? They didn't have the literacy of understanding what a loan truly is or how to correctly operate a budget. So I kind of fell in love with like that part of me of I wanted to help. And if you do any research on Navy SEALs or just football in general, because I was also a co-captain, like my whole route was to protect others and do what's right for them and get them to be a better life, right? And football as a captain, that's just getting the team to where it needs to be. Obviously, Navy SEALs, they put their life on the line for it. And so that still's there, just it's now about money and how people can deal with it financially. And so that's grown, right? Like I said, it started with financial illiteracy and talking about people who weren't literate enough. At this point in time, thanks to COVID, and I will say that, is everything's now on social media. Everyone can Google everything. There's ChatGPT. We don't have a literacy issue anymore. We have an education issue. And what that means is you know what's out there. You just don't know how to put it into your own life and put it into practice. And so that's really what we focus on, speak about more nowadays.
I can relate with it. I grew up in the inner city of Detroit. I went to Detroit public schools, and I tell a lot of times in my videos and on my podcast as well that where I was from, we didn't have financial role models. Most people didn't even own a home. I don't even know if I knew anyone that owned a home. I teach a lot about pursuing passive income, letting your money work for you. But where I came up, you're only taught work hard for your money, but you're not taught about money, and you're not taught any of the important things. And so it makes a lot of sense. So earlier you said that when you were growing up, you didn't care about money. You were thinking about time. So was there a defining moment where you realized money wasn't the enemy? You just didn't understand it yet?
It's a good question. Really good question. And I would say it comes back to my first money memory. And that's a question that we ask everyone. Like, what's that true thing you remember? And mine was I finally earned money. I think I was like 9 or 10 years old. Don't ask me how I earned it, but I had it. I had cash. It was time. And I wanted to take my mom, because she's provided so much for me, to McDonald's and buy her an ice cream cone. She loved McDonald's ice cream cones. And so I did with my, whatever it was back then, I don't know, 75 cents. I don't know how much it cost back then, maybe $1. But I walk outside to give it to her, and one of my friends jump scares me, and I crush it, and it goes to the ground. And I still feel like emotional to this day about the fact that I couldn't have that moment with her, with my own money for the first time. And no, it doesn't matter that McDonald's just gave me a new one. It didn't matter any of that. But it was a simple fact that like my gesture, my moment with my mom could be ruined by that because I didn't have enough money to go get another one.
Sure.
And like that one will always stick to me of like, okay, money does matter because I couldn't go get another one. Mm-hmm. And so what do we do about it? Well, that's why I always preach on make sure you can buy two. Make sure you can buy two, right? So that way you can go back and still have that moment and it doesn't ruin it. It doesn't have that memory stick with you in a negative way when it should have been a positive outcome.
Yeah. No, I understand. Money coming up with my mother and watching her work hard for money and barely making ends meet. And we were on welfare and all of that and the food stamps and stuff. And it drilled in me the importance of having money. I watched my mother struggle, and And so that was a big push for me. I was always after money, but coming up out of my upbringing, the Detroit public school system, nobody taught us about money. I just didn't know how. I didn't know the how. I knew I wanted it, but I didn't know how. And so, that was a gap there that I feel, isn't addressed in where it needs to be. So you said about the financial education system isn't bad to good. It's really poor to just poor. What woke you up to how broken this system really is?
So I had that experience. We just talked about how I was raised, and then being the professional, the teen development officer, learning their stories and talking to them about it. It was the same story, right? A little bit different, like your story. We're similar but different. Yeah. Just kept going and going and going, and I'm like, well, why? And we had, I was interning at a firm, and we had these, I guess, financial materials, literacy materials that we could actually donate to schools, like for free. They didn't need to spend a dime. We can give them to teachers and they can use them, right? Districts always denied it. Always. Oh. Teachers couldn't accept it. We went to the districts. They denied it everywhere. Always. Just kept denying the fact that they didn't want to introduce that because it wasn't part of their core curriculum, whatever they call it, right? And to me, that's when it was like, well, what the hell are we doing here? If we can't provide free materials for people to learn, what's going on with the system? Well, come to find out, if you gave them free materials, they wouldn't get government money. Well, the government also isn't providing that type of material because they don't want the whole system to be known of how people make money and how did you use the system correctly.
Exactly.
And then I just spiraled and kept going and going and going, and it was like, I got to do something. We got to stop this somehow, or help in any way.
Yeah, I understand. I've already talked about coming up in the Detroit public school system. It's the last thing they teach you. They're teaching you try to find some labor-intensive, hard-working job, never teaching you about money, never. And so from that realization, you built Black Mammoth, a modern family office for entrepreneurs and families. What was the mission when you started it?
It was to legitimately take the traditional family office out there, which I'll explain, and modernizing it and let people know what it means and what it is. So to backtrace a little bit, traditional family offices, for those out there, go ahead and Google it, it's fine. But your wealthiest of your wealthy, your billionaires and trillionaires, and a lot of hundreds of millionaires have what is called a family office, which all it is a team of attorneys, accountants. They've got lenders in there. They've got, resources like maids and everything. It is literally an office that runs these people's lives. So when you think of the ultra wealthy, you're like, how the hell do they have enough time to make these decisions and purchase this and do that? They've got a team behind them to do it, right? Now, granted, they have the money to pay these people really well to handle their stuff. But I was always asked, like, why have I never heard of it? One,
right. Yeah.
I'm poor. I'm not in that class. But two, why can't this be more of an everyday thing? No. The way I was raised, should we have had a family office? Absolutely not. Doesn't make sense. But understanding the concept or getting a little piece of it, that way we could grow and go into it maybe, right? And work towards something needed to be done, right? It just needed to be done. And obviously my background, being a minority and with a single mother and our focus, that's what we do. And so taking that concept and modernizing it is just allowing us, as my team at Black Mammoth, to be that every step for you. You got a question about lending or buying a home or a car or how to budget, we got you, right? I'm in legal trouble, or I'm thinking of starting a business, or I don't know what to do about my health benefits at work, or you name it. We got you. We got your back. We all need that. Every person deserves that. Just it depends on what level you need it at.
I wasn't familiar with the traditional office. I understand when people have wealth, they have a team, and the importance of the team is understated. And that's, I teach a lot, in some of my videos and stuff, that, if you think you're going to do everything yourself, you're going to be limited. You're only going to go so far. Does everyone need, the traditional office or the modern office? Maybe not, but the importance of a team, the importance of being able to, rely on others to help you achieve what you achieve, that can go at any role. that can go at any role. So he doesn't have to be some multimillionaire or billionaire to be able to, take advantage of a service like that, because it's important. It's important to be able to learn. And, we all have taxes. We all can use that. We can use help in any way. And so, yeah, great that you're doing that. You talk a lot about emotional intelligence and money, two things that rarely happen in the same sentence. Why is that emotional component so critical to building real wealth?
Let's think back to it. We were always raised to separate your emotions from your financial decisions, right? Make it a business decision, not an emotional decision. Yeah. It's been instilled in all of us, and it still is to a degree. What our industry is learning is that we're humans. Crazy concept, right? We are emotional beings. Every decision we make is based upon emotions. It's just a matter of where that emotion comes from, and is it in line with who you are and where you want to go. Right now, most of us have a separation of our money and where we want to go, mainly because they don't talk to each other and you don't talk to them, right? Yeah. And that could be past traumas, the way you were raised. There's a plethora of ways, but ultimately it comes down to aligning you, what brings you joy, who you are, and what you truly want to do in life, to providing those financial decisions down the road. We've been stuck telling ourselves, just like your brother, of the traditional, let's go to school, get a job, get married, have kids. That's what we've been told we need to do. And in the financial side, we're told exactly what to do too, right? Get a job, 401k, stick on the benefits. There's rarely any pension plans anymore. And right. And that's it. Retire at 65, 67. Yeah. Go on your merry way. We're human. That's not normal for us. And that's why we have so many people that fight the system, if you will, quote unquote, fight the system, because it's not normal. It's not natural for them. And so we need to figure out what is normal and natural for you that brings you joy. For me and my wife, being collegiate athletes, we would rather not put money in our 401ks right now and allow our kids to play at the highest level they possibly can with the best training we can get them, within reason, of course, to live their dreams however they want. I'll deal with retirement later. But that's how we live. But if I said that, what I just said, and we put that out into the market, my advisor friends and everyone else would jump all over me and say, no, you need to take care of yourself first and then your kids. Well, that's not how we roll. That's not how we operate. Right. So our decisions are based upon what we want. You need to make your decisions based upon what you want your life to be.
Yeah, definitely. My brother that we mentioned was set on his path. Me, I didn't. I didn't know what my path was going to be. It's been through so many different things. I didn't have a father, but my brother followed more in his steps. My father worked in the factories in Detroit, and my brother followed up underneath. And I couldn't do it. I didn't know what my path was. I just knew I didn't want that. And, I struggled trying to find it along the way. So, I can understand. And then being like we're from, a single parent, struggling. I was a single parent and I just wanted to give my son anything I could. I just wanted to. So there is a big emotional drive there, there is. So let's talk about your philosophy that true wealth is happiness, the ability to give back, and live in life on your own terms. What does that mean in practice?
So kind of what we just talked about, figuring out what brings you joy. What is your happiness? What is giving back? What does that mean? Mm-hmm. Right? What is that for you? I'll use me as an example because it's the easiest one for me, right? That's where our decisions are made. So when we're thinking of our life, we're not necessarily buying all the fanciest stuff, right? I mean, we have our 2 cars, that's fine. We have a modest house, but we're not spending money on toys and all of that stuff. We're spending our money on the ability to save so we can go on tournaments to Kansas City like we just went on. Yeah. Or once a year going on a family trip and vacation to create that experience together. Mm-hmm. We don't buy all the gifts and toys and things. Like, that's not us. Sure. So when we make a financial decision or we have that come up, we think about that, right? Yeah. We could go get a new car right now. Wife kind of needs one or has been wanting one. And it's like, well, do we do that? Or do we go spring break down to Phoenix with my uncle and spend time with my family as they're aging? Yeah, well, yeah, that's what we're going to do. Right. Because that experience means more for us. So in practice, it's figuring out what those are for you and then making your decisions based upon those. And no, people, I'm not talking about get rid of your $7 lattes that you see everywhere that all advisors have said before. That's not what we're talking about. If that brings you joy, cool, put a part of it. But that also means don't overspend on shopping or whatever. You got to figure out what it is for you. And then your decisions are based upon what that is, not what we're humans. We're going to always impulse buy, but stick it to what you need to do to reach your goals or whatever brings you joy.
I talk to a lot of people in different, wealth classes and stuff. And, you find that as you get further along in having money, what it just gives you really the important aspect is giving you your time so you can spend it with your family and trying to, coming up poor, I always thought, oh man, I want fancy cars. I want, what wealth will give you. But, once you actually obtain a level of wealth, what you want to do is those vacations with your family. You want to spend time with your family. I tell a story that I experienced when I was having to work, and I mentioned I was a single parent. Well, I was faced with, my son had an activity at school, and he studied for it. He wanted me to be there. I was his only parent. We were living in California at the time, and I was faced with, I asked my work if I could go, and they were like, no. And if I left, I was going to lose my job. And so I was faced with, either spending time with my son and losing my job or missing that time and having to go to work. And, I chose work. I wasn't in a position and I couldn't, but it's those moments of spending with your family. That's what wealth gives you. And, and as sooner you can learn that and do give that time, the sooner, the much happier you'll be, in the outcome. So I saw in your bio when I was reading it that you went to Tanzania, building an orphanage and climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
Kilimanjaro. Tell us about that experience and how it shaped your view of what wealth really is.
Yeah, so flying to Tanzania was one of the greatest things I've ever had to do, and that have to do, I guess. We kind of volunteered for it. So we went there as a football team at Drake University, and we were going there for 2 weeks. One, to play an all-star game against a Mexican all-star team, which, by the way, didn't know Mexico had football around as basically as long as we have. So that's fun to know, little tidbit. But when we landed, which is not a big airport, we're on a big plane, small airport, we got welcomed by the local tribe. And when I say they're probably way better athletes than us, they could jump 40 inches like a pogo stick without even thinking. Okay. That's part of their celebration. But boy, if they could, they could dunk on top of the backboard. That's how high they were jumping. Okay. But as we were getting led through in our vehicles and we're going through the villages and whatnot, we started just like, we're all in awe, one, because we're in a different country. We're in Africa. But I started to notice that the men were on the streets or not around at all, and the women were in their huts sweeping mud floors, right? Because they had mud floors. But they were sweeping mud floors. And that memory will never leave me because I'm like, American in me, why the hell are you sweeping mud floors, right? That doesn't, nothing computes. It's mud. Right. And then I started to, over that 2 weeks, realize that these people love their life. They're happy. Now, do they wish they had some of the stuff we did? Did they ask for our gloves and cleats and stuff? Yeah, absolutely. But they're happy because they actually have a village. They take care of each other. They're there for each other. And they have so much pride and are so wealthy, if you will, with true wealth, that they're sweeping mud floors. There's not American in here that I know that would be doing that, right? Sure. They would just let it be. And then I started questioning and understanding, we're not really wealthy in America. Some of us are, but it's just about money.
Yeah.
It's not wealth. Money is a tool to use to become wealthy, but it's not what it's about. Life's not about money. If we took money away, how happy would you be? Could you live? Could you survive? A lot of other people in the world could. Americans, it'd be really tough for most of us. And that's where it kind of just transpired. And I will never forget that memory of them sweeping mud floors and going, wow, they're happy. And I am not on that level. I need to learn. I need to learn something.
InvestorFy, the #1 lending source for first-time and early-stage investors. Just learned how to find your first deal? Let's get it funded. InvestorFy, the only no-money millionaire certified lender. Find us at InvestorFy Lending or visit our website at InvestorFyLending.com. InvestorFy, turning new investors into trained professionals. What are you waiting for? Schedule your free review today.
Well, you hear when people are talking about when they're on their deathbed and they ask, what would have changed, what would they have done, and many of them say they wouldn't have been the solid pursuit for money the way it was, and it'd have been more time, with family and enjoying things that doesn't cost money, and so that's something you hear, so that's a perspective most people never get. So realizing joy doesn't come from the size of your bank account, but the strength of your purpose. So you're pretty outspoken about the one-size-fits-all approach in the financial world. What's broken about how most people are told to plan for their money?
It's all about investments. I mean, think about it. Every news cycle, everything you learn, everyone talking about it, what's the next hot stock or crypto or you name it. That's all we ever care about is what the market's doing.
Sure.
Majority of us, and I'm not kidding, and I don't know the stat, I got to quote it off the top of my head, but majority of Americans do not have anything in the market. Okay? They don't have the ability to save, to invest in the market. A lot of wealthy people actually don't have a ton of money in the markets. They have it in businesses and real estate, etc. So why is that the thing we talk about the most? Why is it always investments? Why is it always a return on money of something? Right? Why is it always that? Why does it care what the stock market did today? It's a falsity. It's just a game, really, at this point. And that is the one thing that I loathe the most about our conversations. It's always about the stock market, when the majority of us just need to figure out how to get their budget under control so they can save in their bank account. So if something tragic happens, they're covered, they're good. Yeah. Or they can get out of debt, or at least balance the debt where it's not just the overall weight on their shoulders. And so it's the investment piece. It needs to not be talked about. It is literally a small piece of your life pie, of your wealth pie. It really is. It's not a big piece, and nor should it be. So those listening, and you're like, well, I would love to get 100% return on my money. Yeah, cool. But if I said I can guarantee you $1 billion return or $1 billion% return, and you have $0 to invest, we all know simple math. 0 times anything, 0. You're still stuck.
Yeah, definitely. That's true. I've mentioned this before. Growing up where I grew up, they don't teach you anything about investments anyways. So that was an area I never, even crypto, I've never ventured into. Well, I stayed away from crypto. I'm like, I don't know anything about it. I'm staying away from it. And then, I don't know, something came along about this new coin, and I'm like, I'm going to invest in it. And I lost every dollar I put into it. And so I should have just stayed away like I did the rest. And I didn't know anything about it. So that's not my area at all. So yeah, I don't venture into any of that. So you've built your firm around fixing that, giving people a structure that fits them and not a spreadsheet. So what does that look like day to day for your clients?
My clients text me all the time. We're in constant communication. And I know everyone's like, well, how the hell do you have enough time? It's just a relationship. It's like any friend we have. But they ask me those questions so we can guide them and help them with some of these decisions. But what all that's doing is it's really rewiring their brain around their relationship with money. And that's the important piece. If you cannot align with everything we talked about prior in this conversation of your emotions and your joy and your experiences, if you can't get that aligned, then this budget thing will never work. It's kind of just like everyone, the first of the year, I'm going to go on a diet, I'm going to work out. February rolls around, that's already dropped off, right? It happens every year.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with your budget, right? And everyone's like, well, budget's a dirty word. We should use spending plan. We should use a different term. But no, because the wealthy and every business under the sun uses a budget. So if they're successful in doing it, you need to be doing it as a personal. The problem is you haven't aligned your vision and mission in your life with what your money should be doing. And so you need to do that. And then there's 2 pieces to anyone's budget that I say needs to be in there. All right. So here's a little free tip for everybody. 1, combine your groceries and eating out into one line item called food. Because that's all it is. Eating out and groceries are only designed to feed you. Don't have them as 2 separate ones. If you have them as 2 separate ones, you go over budget on 2 things. Now you're vastly over budget. If it's under 1, you only go over 1. You'll be all right. The other is you have to have a fun money line item. Okay. This is $10, $100. I don't care. You figure it out in your own budget that literally you could let on fire and it doesn't matter. because we are impulse humans. We need to have the flexibility to go do something because we feel like it. But if you have it as a fun money budget item, it won't affect your budget then anymore, right? So it doesn't overspend, and then you go into the spiral. We all do it, right? And then you go into the spiral, you keep spending, and now you're under budget, and now you're depressed. If it's already aligned there, you're good to go. So that's when we take everyone through a process, and that's where our clients get to, where they have that flexibility and to know, hey, I'm good, and to use the fund money to purpose it that way, but also to have someone just be like, is this a good idea or not, right? It's nice to have that person.
You know, I learned just the whole budget itself is, that's worlds away from someone who doesn't and someone who does. When I was younger and I was in a relationship, we had a checkbook. We didn't use the checks, but we used the line items that was in there to record everything that we were spending on. You know, we didn't do the budget first. We was just trying to keep track of what we were spending where. And just that type of practice really helps so much, you know, where you're seeing where your money's going. And then, you know, tying that into actually budgeting, you know, and being able to put line items for food and line items for fun and different things. That's worlds apart from someone who does and someone who doesn't. And it's such a big difference in your life. I mean, just seeing, as we were doing, just seeing what we were spending and where, just the acknowledgement of what we were doing was like, whoa, okay. It started to bring attention to stuff. But, you know, most of my life, I never did any of that. But I got to a period where, you know, and I was working, doing sales at Cadillac, and was making okay money, but it was enough now. Let's figure out what we're really doing and where is this really going, and what a difference that made, you know, just seeing that. So if you could erase one piece of financial advice forever, the kind that does more harm than good, what would it be?
The concept of debt.
Oh, okay.
And what I mean by that is the lower middle class to the lower class, us poor people, where we were raised, debt was evil. Mm-hmm. Never want to be in debt. Okay? That has then flipped when we're adults to you want to be debt-free all the time as fast as possible.
Sure.
Right? You can align with that. It's the majority of America. Funny thing is, rich people that have a lot of money, business owners, etc., that's not the word we use. We use leverage. Okay? Yes. What we leverage is other people's money, loans,
yes,
investors. We leverage humans, employees, all the staff, to create more money. That more money pays for those people and is passively paying us as well, right? Yeah. But in our poor mindset, we think about debt as always being negative. Granted, there is bad debt and good debt. Like, don't get me wrong. Having a bunch of credit card debt is not necessarily a good thing. It's typically a bad thing. But we think about it as bad. Everyone right now always talks about the car loan. Car loan's one of the biggest bad debts, quote unquote, that people talk about. But isn't it just leveraging you, the ability to go to work or take your family somewhere? So is it truly bad? Or is it doing its job? Mostly it's doing its job, right? Did you overspend on something? Potentially. But it's still doing its job, so it's not bad debt. So for me, it's the debt versus leverage conversation is the biggest crock out there that people just so hone in on because they're not using it right. And then it puts people behind the eight ball because they want to take all their extra savings and put it towards their debt. And now they're behind the eight ball even more because they didn't save with that. They just put it all towards debt.
Sure. Well, you know, that couldn't tie more into my show. And I'm glad anybody out there is listening. I'm so happy you're on. And we touched in that in this because, you know, my show is the No Money Millionaire. And so what I do is I teach people how to build wealth with other people's money. And where I'm from, it's so foreign. It's so contradictory to what we know. You know, it's like you can buy property without having your own money. and the good debt and the bad debt, and it's one of the hardest mindsets to overcome. It's like, oh, I don't want debt. We're taught so much that debt is bad. Everyone's trying to get to the point where they can be debt free, just like you've mentioned, and that's I don't know. I'm sure you're probably familiar with Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad, but all he talks about is how happy he is and how much in debt. I just saw a video the other day. He told somebody he's 1.2 billion in debt, but he's a billionaire. And as you get up, and this is what I teach, as you get up there, you find nobody that's really wealthy is using their own money. They all use leverage, as it's called, and it's amazing. It's amazing we touched onto that, because that goes right in line with everything that my whole book and everything is based on. So for people listening who are just trying to get ahead, maybe broke, overwhelmed, or starting late, what's the first step toward building financial stability?
Part A, 1A, 1B. 1, you're not alone. You're not the only person on the planet going through it. Know that. 2, you have to sit down and do a deep dive and mentally think about who you are. Start with your first money memory, then align yourself with what brings you joy and makes you smile, okay? And then next, you got to do this exercise, okay? All my clients do this. This exercise is vitally important. I want you to take 12 months of your bank statements, credit card statements, whatever you use for your expenses and operating. And I want you to get a green highlighter, a yellow highlighter, and a red highlighter, or pink if they come in that. And I want you to highlight everything green, that when you see that in that transaction list, memory sparks, smile happens, something you feel. Everything in yellow is just like, you have to have it, right? Like rent or something like that. Those are just, you have to survive, so those are yellow. Red is the ones when you think about it is, that was a waste, negative memory. Not okay. Don't like it. Okay. Then I want you to add those totals up. See where you're spending that extra money. See where that's going. And then revert back to the exercise before. Is it aligning with what you want your life to be? And if it's not, I think that's a pretty easy way to make decisions. You have it. It's aligned with you. You know where to go now. And then from there, you can start to make proper decisions. And you'll just slowly start chipping away at this thing. Because again, it's a lifelong journey. There is no getting rich quickly. It takes work and it takes effort every day. But if you can nail that first part down, the next day is going to be a little easier.
Yeah. Well, that goes right into the kind of what I said we did, just line item in it and putting it down. I didn't break it down to the extent that you said, which I can see where, that makes it stand out so much more to you. If you've like highlighted things in red and you're actually getting a dollar amount to things that you see, aren't necessary, aren't bringing you joy, but that's very similar to what it was doing. It made me realize where our money was going, what was happening, and I was able to break it down. So yeah, I see that takes it to that next level. And sure, I know personally how helpful that is. Definitely. So I like that. And wealth isn't what you leave for people. It's what you leave in them. So, all right, a quick fire time. First thing that comes to mind. Okay? Some rapid little answers here. So, worst financial decision you ever made?
Business partner.
Oh, I know all about it. So, best investment you've ever made? Not money related.
Time with my kids, going to their practices, everything, every time.
Again, I've shared my story. I know that, and so I know that firsthand. So, one financial myth you want people to stop believing, if we haven't touched on that already.
Well, that would be that one.
Yeah.
For sure. That is definitely a money myth. I get that. That's the biggest one. The other ones can be true for you, but that mindset needs to change today.
And that goes right along with what I'm trying to get people to do as well. So I understand it. So a quote or belief you live by.
Oh, love this one.
Okay.
I love this one. Okay, ready? It is. Look good, play good. Okay? Look good, play good. That's all I got. Now, it is from Deion Sanders. He adds on to it, if you look good and you play good, they're going to pay good, right? But
Yeah.
that's the quote that I definitely live by. When I was an athlete, right?
Yeah.
My actual motto that I go with now that I'm not an athlete is: you win some, you lose some. Just keep moving forward.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, no, you have to keep moving forward. So, and then finish this line for me. Money is a tool for
You to build your wealth the way you want it to.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Well, that's all I have for my questions for you. Do you want to take a minute? You want to tell people about your book? I told you I've downloaded it myself. So you want to tell people where they can find it or anything else? Please take the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everyone. Also, I say this in every episode that is either on my podcast or I guest on. Comment, share, do those things, and not because of the analytics, although it helps us, right? Algorithm. But the only way we can create more content and really help you is if we know what's going on. And by communicating and starting that conversation, it's going to change your life. So you can reach out to us anywhere, blackmammoth.com, nobswealth.com. You can go to Stoy Hall. You can find us on every social media platform except for Reddit because I got kicked off that. Long story there. But truly just reach out and be a part of what we got going on. My one ask again is to comment and share. You can get the ebook. It is on blackmammoth.com as well. And that ebook is designed around women and minorities and how to get rich quick. Right? Quick quotes, everybody out there, and how it's truly not. And when you read it, you realize that it's not about that. It's about the wealth part of it that we have spoken about on today's podcast.
Well, thank you. And that just to share with you, there's a book that was amazing to me coming up. And I don't know if you're familiar. It's kind of obscure. I found it online. It's from like before 1910. It was a free book online. It's called The Science of Getting Rich. And it's not really about monetary riches. It's about life enrichment. And it was a free book online. Just sharing this, with you. It changes from the competitive mindset to the creative mindset. And it was amazing. It was an amazing, book. And so everybody, you listened to Stoy Hall. You heard his story. Touched on a lot of amazing points tonight. I really appreciate it. And thank you. Thanks for coming on. And great things to you. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate having me on. I truly appreciate it.